Welcome back. So this is part two of, and we're talking about campus drug dealers. And so I ran an alternative school, and it was in like an alternative education program. So there for 5 years, I worked there, and there was like an open campus where the students had to apply and come to. Then there was an alternative school, middle and high, two separate schools. So there was a alternative middle school and an alternative high school, and so on a regular basis, drugs are a part of the conversation when you're dealing with, well, in my school, I can't speak for every school, but in my school, drugs was a part of the conversation on a daily basis. And so there was a campus drug dealer every year. Every year. Now, I want to talk about, it took me a while to get my vocabulary for this conversation because I didn't want to do like best and worst, because that implies something. I want, and then I'm gonna sit with good and bad as far as the campus drug dealers, because at the end of the day, it's like this: there are students who want to go to school for pharmacy in most schools, so there are street pharmacists in most schools. And one thing that I had every term, every semester, was at least one street pharmacist. So I want to talk about the good first. So the thing about working at the campus that I worked at was that every day there were groups of students who got high, period. You had your smokers who probably smoked too much. And there were some that I would have to kind of, hey man, you cannot, they were on the smoky level. And so this is part two to a part one. We talked about Friday in part one. And so I kind of ended near Smokey's story with his problem, because that is a problem. And it became a problem for my campus. There were certain students who, sweetheart, you smoke too much. Bottom line, like, I shouldn't know that that's what you did for lunch. My students had 45 minutes. So at the end of the day, I'm not going out to lunch with you. They left campus. They could go have lunch in the surrounding businesses in the community. So we're trusting you on one side of the campus to go and come back. So if you go and come back, it is my expectation that you're coming back and you're ready to learn for your third block class, because that's what time they would come back, for their third block class. They would leave after second, have lunch, come back for third. I expect you to be ready to learn. Well, if you're coming in here smelling like weed and looking like weed, then you're probably not ready to learn. And weed is still soft in comparison to some of the other things that were happening on campus, because the pills, there were nothing we could do with students who may have taken too many pills and not overdose, but just they're at the point past real consciousness, like we're trying to talk to you and you can't even keep the conversation. So a lot of things happen in dealing with drugs in the campus, where there are teenagers. So my age groups, well, I had a middle school, so middle school was middle school ages, but then my high schools were like 16 to 22. So it was a lot of things going on, but drugs was a part of the conversation. So and I'm going to put them in the category of good, which was most once I set some ground rules, and we'll talk about what that means. But the good ones, I never knew who was selling drugs. I suspected, and there was never enough documentation to support me really doing something about it. So, and in most cases, the good ones were people who, they weren't just selling drugs or selling weed just because they wanted to sell weed. In most cases, this is what they had to do to survive. They may have been paying bills in the home. They may have had a child. Like there was a daycare on campus at the school where I worked. So there were a lot of different things that were happening within the community of the body of students that I worked with that I had to deal with, and drugs was a major part of that. So when it came to that particular, the good ones who I couldn't and didn't and really didn't have to talk to, because again, these children were smoking weed every day. There was no question, because I talked to my student body and my student body talked to me, and we might talk in code and things of that nature, but at the end of the day, this is something that I knew was happening, and it was a problem because I would come in and sometimes the lobby would smell like weed, or there would be people who would come back to campus and you smell like you just got out of a car full of smoke, like what's on. So I'm having to have conversations, or I'm choosing to have conversations to guide them, because at the end of the day, there are mixed messages in the media. You have certain countries that are thriving off of $1 billion business, and then you have, or states that are thriving off of, and are making money and are doing great things, and then you have states where it's not legalized, and It's just a miscommunication. So it's like, listen, as it pertains to where we are, these are the things that you have to do. If that's what you do, I shouldn't know, especially if you have 45 minutes. Like, I shouldn't know what you did with 45 minutes. I'm not asking you to come and look at what I'm doing during my lunch. I do not expect to know what you're doing during your lunch. So that's just one of the things that I had to deal with. Now, that's the good ones, because again, on the majority, for the good group, or the people who stayed out of trouble, meaning you're not catching an extra charge by selling drugs on campus, within a school, within 100 feet of a school building. Like, these are things that you need to know. The good group knew that. Now, there was a bad male and a bad female. I'm going to start with the bad male. This young man got on my, he was the type of person who did not need to he didn't need to sell drugs. I don't think he needed to sell drugs to live. I actually had to have a one-on-one conversation with him, like, young man, I don't know why you're doing this, but what I do know is my concern for you is that you're going to end up in jail or dead based upon what you're doing. One day a teacher comes to me and she says, I have so-and-so on video selling drugs. And I'm like, no, you don't. She was like, oh, yeah, I do. Let me show you. So she shows me the video, and there it is, so-and-so, as clear as day, selling drugs. Oh, word? I don't want that video. No, let me have a conversation, because at the end of the day, there's this disconnect between what's happening and jail, and it's just a lot for me. So sir, it didn't happen on campus, so I have no authority to move on this. I have no authority to move on this. This is through someone else's phone. I don't even have this document in this moment. You need to do something different. Well, this person didn't listen. Okay, he didn't listen. And so I had to let him know that, I know the rules and the procedures, and I implement the rules and procedures because I'm the coordinator, I'm the administrator of this building, so I know the rules. So when it comes to you not doing what you're supposed to do, you don't follow directions. So it was pretty easy to get this young man off campus because he continued to break the rules. What ended up happening was he got his parents' house shut up. Now, after he got his parents' house shut up, they called the school and they were like, listen, this weekend we had an incident. Someone shot at our house. And I already knew kind of what it was about because this person was a little too loose with their conversation. And again, you're selling drugs. And I'm not in position to really have this conversation with parents or otherwise. Okay, cool. So basically, I end up putting this person online for their safety, but really for our safety, because I work here and I like my life. And at some point, the person didn't like the online learning platform, and so they wanted to come back to campus, and the answer was no, absolutely not. Because bullets chase you, and I work here, and I don't need bullets chasing you, and then I get hit because you playing games with your life. I'm cool on that. So that particular person he ended up graduating. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. Because he was on something else, but he graduated. Now, on the other end of that spectrum, there was the bad female. She made me change my practice. My first year of leadership, there was a young lady who worked. She just was never in the right. She was dating a young lady in the middle school. So she was about 18, maybe 19. She was dating a 14-year-old in the middle school, a young lady. And so I'm like, well, okay, but listen, you're 18, she's 14. There are legal things right there. That's statutory, which you should already know. But secondly, you're in my high school, she's in my middle school. You all cannot meet here. So we're having to have these conversations, and I'm not understanding that these are things that should make me just look at the behavior of this young lady a little bit more. Well, at the end of the term, somehow we have a conversation when school's almost over. We're sitting at her counselor, and she lets us know that she's been selling drugs on campus all year. And I don't know how it slipped past me, but what that meant was I was not paying enough attention to her actions and her exchanges and things of that nature. And whereas she may not have cared that she was getting another charge or potentially could get another charge. Like, first you're distributing drugs, but then you're distributing drugs on a campus within 100 feet of a school, which is another charge. You're so many things. Then you're dating a 14-year-old, so then that's another set of charge. And of course, this young lady, not of course, but because she did not change her behavior, she ended up going to jail. I don't know what's going on with her at this moment. And truthfully, I don't necessarily, I won't be looking into that. It's just having the conversation of what was happening. Because yes, when it came to drug dealers, we did have drug dealers on campus all 5 years that I worked at that particular school. And that first year, it was a young lady who got it past me. The other years, we didn't have too much of an issue until like year 5, when I had that young man who just would not follow directions. But the truth of the matter is, he had no business. Like, hey, sir, you don't even need to do this at all, because I don't know what it is, but if I have you on video, or I have access to a video with you on it, or I've seen, let me say that I've seen, because it's not mine, I've seen video of you selling, and you've gotten someone's house shot up, you need to do something different. There are 1,000 signs telling you to do something different. So since you won't do it, then let me make sure to protect myself in the school. But that young lady, she made me change my practices. She made me tighten up. I didn't realize she was selling on camera, and I put the word out early. The next school year and moving on, because at the end of the day, there's always, like, I talk too much, there's a student who talks too much, and there's one that's going to disseminate the information because people talk. And I let them know, better not be no selling drugs on my campus, or it's going to be a problem, and you're going to have a problem with me. And it's going to start with me, and it's going to finish. I'm going to help you. I'm going to let you. Like, I'm going to help you get to where you want to be, because if you're selling drugs on campus, you clearly want to be in jail. And I'm not a proponent of that. I didn't even like my kids going in and out, because I knew that they could do better. But then there were some who just listened to no one. And okay, if that's what you want. If that's what you want. So I just wanted to have a conversation about something that I experienced. Something that I had to work through, because if you've ever seen the movie Sing, for example, if you've ever seen the movie Sing, I think Johnny is a gorilla or Abe, or he sings, right? And he comes from this family where they rob. And so his dad is like, what are you talking about? You don't want to be a robber with us. You don't want to burglarize? Like, this is what we do. And he's like, look, I just really want to sing. And he really wanted to sing. And so they're out committing crimes, and he's not focused, because this is not what he wanted to do. So there are children who are in families where, look, this is what we do. We rob. This is, hey, you're wrong if you don't want to ride with us. So with that mindset, I had to be a little different, or at least I chose to be different in interacting with my student body, because some students, that's what they were taught. And if that's what you're taught, and now if you do want to go to jail, that's one thing. But if you really don't want to go to jail, and these are the things that are happening in your home, because you come from the family of people who, this is what we do, we rob, well, then you have to do something different. So there had to be conversations that took place, and in most cases, things improved. In some cases, they did not. In some cases, they not. So this is just the beginning of several conversations, because just as much as we had campus drug dealers, we also had gang members, and we also had prostitutes. There was student government, and there were some great things going on, FCCLA, but I had an array. I had teen parents, and so all these conversations will be different, and this was just a small conversation on campus drug dealers, and I don't know if I'll come back. I feel like I've kind of talked about who I needed to talk about to lay down on this video, and I thank you so much for listening. I don't know if this is interesting to you, if it will help, but what I do know is there are a lot of students who fall in these categories, and a lot of my students fell in these categories, and some of them had to sell drugs because they had to sell drugs. And I know that's like, you can't say that. Well, I know that they were paying bills at their house. I know that, not that the mother said don't do it, but they also took the money. So it's just, it was a fine line, and I'm not in the home with you, and I don't know your situation. So a part of these conversations were conversations that help my students to be successful, because we need to have a conversation about what are you doing, and where are you going, and how is this helping you, and if it's not, what do you do differently. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time. And this is the conclusion of part 2. So we talked funny about a movie and drug dealers, and then we kind of had to have a serious conversation, because this was one of those things I had to address on a regular basis on my campus, at the school that I worked at. And I'm sure that other people are seeing similar issues, because I have worked at several schools. So thank you for joining me. More to come on the different groups, and I'm going to try to have like a movie. I forgot to pull the homework. Oh my goodness, what is the homework? I believe the homework is Mo Money. but I don't know where that is. Bear with me. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Sorry. I'll be better prepared. Let's do this one because there's this really funny scene with like the Reverend Pimp Daddy or something like that. I'm gonna have to watch the watch the credits, but I love it. So watch this one for the next conversation, and then I'm just gonna go wherever it takes me. I don't know where it's gonna take me. We'll see then. But thank you so much. Have a great one. Welcome back. Welcome. Appreciate your time. Have a good one.